Welcome to the SBR NHL Ice Guys. It's Saturday, January 13th. I'm Ian Cameron for Sportsbook Review, joined by Dana Lane, Alex B. Smith, and Andrew McGinnis as we break down the Saturday NHL card. A lot of games to get to, as you would expect on a Saturday, so we're going to get right to it. But before we do, we've got to bring up something that I know I've mentioned everywhere. I mentioned it on the website I'm associated with, their posting form, Sports Memo. I posted about it on Twitter. We're dealing with a lot of games today where teams are coming off their 5-day break. It's a mandated break by the league. Every team has this during the month of January. Yeah, and if you've been paying attention, going back to last season, which was the first year they did this break, league mandated 5-day break / bye week for each team. Teams that have been coming out of the break, playing that first game out of the break, and taking on teams just playing their normal schedule that are not coming off that 5-day break, boy, it's been a big advantage for the team not on the break. They have dominated the teams playing that first game out of that 5-day break and at an 18-8 clip last year for teams playing the first game out of the bye week and facing teams just playing their normal game on the schedule. And that trend is actually now 19-8 after last night, as we saw the Edmonton Oilers, who were facing the Arizona Coyotes, with the Coyotes coming out of their first game after the 5-day break, and the trend continues to roll. Edmonton got it done, a 4-2 victory. So that's now 19-8. That's now over 70% winners. If you have been betting on teams betting on teams not coming off their bye week break against teams playing their first game coming out of their bye week. So that is something that you're going to want to keep in mind moving forward, and something you may be able to take advantage of. Now, if you look at today's schedule for January 13th, there's a ton of teams coming out of bye week breaks, but they're matched up against other teams coming out of their bye week break. So that the trend does not work for those games. That cancels out. Two teams facing each other, both coming out of their bye week. That is not something that factors in to the 19-8 angle I'm speaking about. It's only for a team playing their first game out of the bye week against a team that is not coming out of that bye. So tonight, in terms of games like that, we've got San Jose coming off their 5-day break facing Arizona. So if you believe in that 19-8 betting angle, that would make Arizona a bet tonight. You might have to hold your nose, but that's what it would mean. You got the Vegas Golden Knights taking on the Edmonton Oilers tonight. If you believe in that trend, the Edmonton Oilers would be a play in that game tonight, much like they were last night. And let me see, is that it? That's it. That's it in terms of games tonight. Just the two games involving a team coming out of their 5-day break, facing a team that is not coming out of a 5-day break. So those are the two games that fit that 19-8 betting angle, dating back to last season when these league mandated 5-day breaks went into practice. So that would make it Arizona and Edmonton as play-on teams tonight, facing San Jose and Vegas coming out of the bye week. Now, I'm not saying bet these blindly. You've still got to. I still think you've got to handicap the games. You got to factor in injuries, all that stuff. You can't just bet it blindly. But that 19-8 angle now is starting to really gain some traction. Let's put it that way. I mean, 19-8 is pretty good, and it is something you at least, doesn't mean you want to bet it blindly, like I said, but you at least want to be aware of it going into these games today and the games in the next few days, because you're going to have a bunch of teams coming out of their bye week in not only today but over the course of the next 7 days as well. So something you definitely want to be factoring in to your NHL handicapping throughout the next week or so. So with that in mind, let's get to it. Detroit-Pittsburgh to kick off the card, 51-52, early start, 1:05 p.m. Eastern. Pittsburgh minus 185. Home favorite in this game. The total 5.5 here, pretty much shaded to the over slightly in this hockey game. We got both of these teams coming out of their 5-day break, their league-mandated rest period, I guess you could say, for this hockey game. So really you have no edge in terms of that angle going into this game here. But, the Pittsburgh Penguins, it's interesting because we're waiting for this team to really start playing better, really start to get their engine revved up, I guess you could say, because we've talked about it for, seems like all season here, guys, on the show. I mean, this team has just sort of put it on cruise control here in the regular season. Let's not wear ourselves out. Let's not tax ourselves emotionally, physically, and let's just try to do what we can to get into the playoffs and go from there. And certainly that's been a reason I think why Pittsburgh sort of, treaded water so far this season. They've not played consistent hockey. They've also had to deal with injuries. There's no question. But then again, a lot of other teams have to deal with injuries. So no one's going to feel sorry for the predicament Pittsburgh's been in. But they did start to play a little bit better prior to that their break, their bye week. They won 3 of their last 4 games, beat Philly on the road, beat the Islanders 4-0 on the road, beat Boston 6-5 in overtime in what was a bit of a pond hockey game last Sunday night. Before their break. On the flip side, you got the Detroit Red Wings, who had actually won 4 games in a row. They beat Rangers. They beat this aforementioned Pittsburgh team. They beat Ottawa in overtime. They beat Florida 4-2, and finally had that streak snapped by the league-leading Tampa Bay Lightning 5-2 in their last game before the break. But Detroit, defensively played a little bit better up until that game against Tampa Bay. But it's going to be a little bit tricky here for them here. If you're a totals trend guy, and it's kind of why I like this game to go over the number. Boy, I mean, 4-0 the last 4 meetings, the over between these two teams in Pittsburgh, 7-1 to the over the last 8 meetings overall between the Red Wings and the Penguins. I think it's one of those games where coming out of this bye week break, you could see some sloppy play in terms of defensive play. I mean, when you look at the bye week stats in terms of goals, we're looking at an average of just over 6 goals per game in games involving teams coming out of the break last year. So they were a little bit more higher scoring. They were close to about 6 goals per game on average in those games for these teams coming out of the bye. So kind of speaks to what I'm saying about how it's been a little bit sloppy defensively. Maybe you get a little more wide open type of game for these teams that are just trying to get their feet wet coming out of the break. So could be an over day. I'm not saying it will be, but I'm saying it could be because you got so many teams on these bye weeks coming out of the bye weeks, and you've had 6 goals per game on average in a lot of these games. So I'm going to lean over the total. I'll probably bet it here because you've got a strong head-to-head series history that indicates higher scoring games. So I'll go over 5.5 here, minus 120 in this game. I do not believe anyone else had a play on it. No, they did not. So let's go to the Islanders Rangers 53-54. Rangers minus 150 to minus 155. Heavy move toward the Rangers in this game, up 20 cents basically from where it opened. The total 6 shaded to the over. And you know how I feel about Islander games. They've been a team I've been riding up and over the total throughout the course of the season. The question is, do I want to get back on that saddle again? And I'm going to get back on that saddle again. I'm going to indeed look over 6 in this game. I mean, obviously the break for both of these teams, you wonder, is it going to be a situation where they're ready? Is the Islanders just going to pick it up again all of a sudden with no defense, all offense mantra that they've had so far this season? That remains to be seen. But, the fact is, again, coming out of the break, I'm not expecting these teams to be sharp defensively. I'm expecting turnovers. I think you're going to see more giveaways. Maybe you're a step slow on the back check, for instance, and you take a penalty. I think I could see penalties maybe going up a little bit here on games today involving these teams coming out of the break. So factoring that all in, and I think you could see some higher scoring games. And, of course, 4 of the last 5 meetings between the Rangers and Islanders have also gone over the total. So I'm going to keep it short and sweet. We know the Islanders have been a bad defensive team. It continued before the break. You look at their recent games, they're good to give up 4, 5, 6 goals, it seems, in every game. In fact, their last 6 games going into the break, they gave up at least 4 goals in every game. That is horrendous. That's not keeping the puck out of your own net. And I think that might continue here today. So I'm going to go over 6. So I'm on the over in both of these early afternoon games today. Detroit, Pittsburgh, and Islanders, Rangers. Let's get to Dana. He's also in on the Islanders, Rangers, and he's a little bit miffed about this game, and he's going to tell you why in just a few seconds because we were talking about it off air. Dana, what are you looking at here in this game that's got you a little perturbed?
Well, I mean, listen, I'm okay with it. I got them at minus $1.30 last night, and I wake up and it's $1.49, $1.50. There's some over our personal thresholds holds of minus $1.50. So, if I was handicapping this game this morning, maybe I would move forward on it. But last night at minus $1.30, I mean, I really like the Rangers in this game, and I really think it's time for them to start making their move in the Metropolitan Division. They do face an Islanders team who is just 4-8-1 over the last month, and by comparison, only Buffalo, Arizona, and Vancouver have a worse record during that time. So the Islanders are not trending in a direction that inspires me to back them financially. New York is the Rangers are 6-4-2 over that period of time, but over their next 8 games, 7 of those games are against teams that are out of the playoffs as we speak. Now, granted, when we talk about teams that are out of the playoffs as we speak, we talk about the Pittsburgh Penguins. And it's certainly, no matter how you feel about the Penguins, I mean, there's certainly a contender. So yes, that number's a little bit more diluted than or not as exciting to say as it might sound, but the fact of the matter is that they are playing a bunch of teams that they should beat if they expect to make some headway in their conference. I don't have enough confidence in the Rangers right now to put them high up on my power ratings. I still have a lot of doubt about whether or not, despite the amount of talent that they have on that team, I have a lot of doubts on whether or not I can consistently count on them to give my money a good effort. I saw them against the Vegas Golden Knights the other night, Sunday night. I thought they played extremely well. I just think Vegas, it's time to get over this. This Vegas team's a good team, and basically Vegas suffocated them once they got the lead. I think Mika Zibanejad definitely has to start stepping up. I mean, this is a guy he's your top line center. He's a big guy. He's got a fantastic shot. They also need some help on the blue line for sure. But going back to Zibanejad, you certainly can't have a guy that has 2 points in his last 10 games. I mean, he needs to be more of a bigger factor. The Rangers are home after that loss to Vegas now, where they've won 13 of the last 17 games. So they should be more comfortable in the friendly confines of Madison Square Garden. But at $1.49, guys, I mean, I sure like this last night at $1.30 a lot more, but still like the Rangers a whole bunch. And sometimes you just go and grab a winner rather than trying to find a price. So that's what I'm going to do today.
All right, New York Rangers laying the price, Dana Lane in this game, and Islanders also banged up a little bit coming out of the break. Josh Bailey's not going to play, and we know how good he's been at times for this Islanders team. Andrew Ladd's out with injury. They're still without Boychuk. They're still without Calvin DeHaan, which is, this team wasn't even great defensively with DeHaan, and they're even worse without him. I mean, it's been a huge loss for them on the back end in terms of their defensive team play, which has totally eroded even more after that injury. So it's just left this Islanders team just struggling and playing bad hockey. Now, they have played well against this Rangers team, 4-0 the last 4 meetings head-to-head, 6-1 the last 7 in New York. But you look at current form, and it was not good going into the break. Maybe the break recharges things for the Islanders a bit, but they lost 5 of their last 6 going into the break, not playing very good hockey. They're going to hope the break cures what ails them. But Dana says today that's not going to happen. We're going to look at he's looking at the Rangers here in this game. Philly, New Jersey, 55-56. Jersey, -120 to -125. Home favorite, the total 5.5. Shaded a little bit to the under in this game. Devils and Flyers, once again, we've got a battle of 2 teams, both coming out of their break in this game. Jersey at home, has been pretty solid this year, 12-7 on home ice for the New Jersey Devils, and really a team that they don't seem to be going away. I mean, everyone's saying that that hot start they had, could they sustain it? Could they keep themselves afloat in the mix? Well, 22-11-4 is their record coming out of their break. So I'd say they're doing a pretty good job staying in the mix right now. They certainly are. They're a factor still in the Eastern Conference playoff race, and playing very good hockey for the most part. Is this New Jersey Devils team. We'll see if they're able to keep it going here in this game against the Philadelphia Flyers, who, they're as streaky a team as it gets. They're capable of a 10-game winning streak, equally capable of a 10-game losing streak, and I think they've had each of those in the first half of the season. One big, long win streak. Actually, they had 2 pretty big, long win streaks, and then a massive losing streak as well. So Philadelphia's run the gamut. Now they're on the good side of the ledger. 3 wins going into their break, and a couple of them against good teams. They beat the Islanders, they beat St. Louis, Buffalo not so much, but 3 wins in a row for the Philadelphia Flyers going into that break. But again, sort of like with the NFL bye week breaks, does the momentum sort of go away from these teams? When you're rolling going into the bye week, I think sometimes the break can disrupt that momentum and throw it off when you get back, whereas a team that's struggling going into the break, and New Jersey they dropped 5 in a row going into that break. it could be a situation where they use that break to maybe get back on track a little bit. So that's definitely something that I look at. Teams coming out of a break, not only in the NFL bye weeks, but these kind of breaks as well. You look at it. Maybe this gives New Jersey a chance to recharge the batteries, get back on track, get refocused, clear their minds, and now get back to the rink and be ready to go. And it's worth noting in terms of extra rest, 3 days or more is what I consider extra rest between games. Philly just 3-3, but New Jersey 5-0-1. 3 days or more of extra rest. So you know where I'm going here. It's an official play for me here. Again, I like this card quite a bit. This is a play for me. I'm on the Jersey side here. -117, best number you can get right now at Heritage. That's a good price. I'm on the Devils here, -117. I think it's a good recharge your batteries. They're struggling going into the break. I think they get a win coming out of the break. And again, their track record with extra rest been very good this year. 5-0-1. I'll ride that and take Jersey here as a short home favorite tonight against the Philadelphia Flyers. Dana's also involved in the Flyer-Devil game. Dana, what are you looking at in this game?
Hey, I don't know if you... there we go. Okay, I didn't know if you could see me or not, but for a while. I had somebody in the chat room say, change my face, and I'm like, well, that's not very nice. It's way too early for that. Hey, listen, guys, if we weren't talking about Vegas, we'd certainly be talking about Jersey. I mean, they've certainly have, created a huge story, and, Vegas is a little bit bigger considering the fact that they're an expansion team, but you really have to give it to New Jersey and what they've been able to accomplish this year. This is a team that's in the third spot in the Metro Division right now, and they're really climbing up my power ratings. Not quite yet in the top 10. And again, I base my power ratings based upon teams that I feel comfortable to put my money behind on a nightly basis. And I don't think New Jersey's there. And honestly, I mean, we just got through talking about the Rangers. I don't think they're there yet for me either. The game within the game for this is, of course, Nico Hischier and Nolan Patrick will be facing off for the first time. And the last time Hischier saw Nolan Patrick, he was throwing up on a stationary bike. So this should be a different meeting for those two guys. And, I think Hischier really, I know he's only got 8 goals this year, but he obviously has made the guys around him better. Taylor Hall's on pace to have an 80-point season. Jesper Bratt is going to be a 20-goal guy, and I just really feel like he's come in there and maybe not statistically taken things over, but I think he's really stabilized this organization. He really has become a rock that the Devils can build on, and he's even a little bit better than I thought he would. I thought he'd find himself on the second line going into the year, and they'd kind of bury him there for a second just to get his feet wet. But he certainly has the ability to lead this hockey team. And then if you're talking about Nolan Patrick, I mean, here's a guy, and I know he's battled through some injuries, and but he is kind of buried on that third line, and I think it's going to be, I know everybody kind of wants to make a rivalry between these two teams, but between these two guys, but there certainly is no rivalry right now. Nico Hischier is the better of the two hockey players. The Flyers are offensively, they're stuck in the middle of the league offensively. The Devils are 8th in scoring. I just, sometimes things are not any harder than they should be. I mean, New Jersey is better offensively, and I feel better putting my money behind them. So even though I have to lay a little bit of juice with the Devils, I certainly think they're better than Philadelphia, and I think that they they resurrect their season a little bit and come back after that mini losing streak. So I like the Devils today over Philadelphia.
There you go. That makes it 2 on New Jersey in this game. Dana and I both in agreement with the Devils side in this game. And let's give Taylor Hall credit, too, because look at this guy. 42 points for Taylor Hall in 39 games this year for the New Jersey Devils. 15 goals, 27 assists. Playing well. I mean, at times it's not been smooth for him in Jersey, but he's really found his footing this year after a great first half of the season for this team. And even though Hischier only has 8 goals, does have 26 points still in 41 games, 18 assists for him as well. So he's looking to set up his teammates as well, and he's definitely done a good job of that. Will Butcher being 25 points from the blue line is pretty impressive as well for this Jersey team. So they've just had these unexpected extra step-up contributions offensively. And the one thing I've noticed all year from watching New Jersey is this team's got speed to burn. I mean, all four lines can skate very well, and that's been a big upgrade for New Jersey. Years past, it's been clogging up the middle of the ice. It's been plodding hockey. It's been slow snail pace hockey. It's been, trap it up, wait for a turnover, hopefully force one, and then go the other way. Now it's just you don't mind playing more of a free-flowing style. Certainly John Hines has not shied away from playing that way this year for the New Jersey Devils, and why not? They've got the four lines that have been able to show that elite or that very high level of skating ability. Where they can get back on a back check, where if they take some chances in the offensive zone, they're not totally screwed up. They can get back still because they've got that speed to do so. And as a result, they're playing that great both ends of the ice style of hockey, go up and down, and it's worked out well for them, and they're having a good season as a result. So even though they didn't play their best, maybe some of their worst hockey going into the break, the 5-game losing streak, I like the spot to snap it. Dana and I both liking New Jersey in that game. We've got Boston, Montreal, 57-58 on your rotation. Boston laying minus 130 to minus 135 on the road. The total 5.5. Pretty much across the board, pretty much even money as well, minus 110 on that total. And we'll see if this game, a great rivalry, by the way, Canadiens and Bruins, both, again, much like we've talked about with so many games on this card, both teams coming out of their break for this hockey game. It's actually the first meeting of the season, believe it or not, tonight, between the Boston Bruins and Montreal Canadiens. I can't believe it. It's January 13th. They're division rivals, and this is the first time all season that they're playing head-to-head. It's kind of surprising, but I understand the break probably came at a good time for the Montreal Canadiens because we know this team has been just almost a disaster at times throughout the course of the season. They had just a brutal, dismal losing streak going. They did win their last two, believe it or not, before the break. Beat Tampa in a shootout, but they needed Carey Price to be absolutely heroic in that game to win it. And then they beat Vancouver, which is, it's not at home, which is, it's an okay win, but it's not great. So Montreal's got a lot to prove. They've got a lot of ground to make up. Boston, the concern is, they were just tearing it up, the Bruins, going into the break. Does the break throw them off a little bit? They did lose that last game before the break. It was a game that Tuukka Rask called his performance, shit or something like that. He was not happy at all following that game against Pittsburgh. They lost 6-5 in overtime. Probably was one of Tuukka Rask's weaker games in quite some time because he hasn't had many weak games. He's been, for the most part, a tower of power in the pipes for the Boston Bruins. So for me, it's a tough game to gauge. I'm not really always in love with laying minus 130 or more on the road, but if I have to give a lean in this game, it would still be to Boston. I've got to see it before I can believe it from the Montreal Canadiens in terms of a clear turnaround and against a team that, for the most part, was playing pretty good going into the break, and that was the Boston Bruins. Does the break disrupt the rhythm and the momentum that they had? Perhaps. That's my concern, but I'll give a lean to Boston here in this game at about the minus 130 price. Let's go to Andrew McGinnis for the first time because he wants to talk about his beloved Habs, who will try to show us something in a positive manner here as the second half of their season kicks off. Andrew, what do you see in this game tonight and for the Habs moving forward?
Yeah, hopefully they can show us something, Ian. I hope they can do something for us. But I just want to actually echo just what you were saying earlier about those teams coming off a bye week or going off the rest. It's important that people to know it's not just assuming that the other team is going to play like absolute trash just because they've had that rest. But it's so important for people to recognize that even though these guys are professional athletes, you play a sport every single day. It's what they do as their job. So when you're not doing it for 6 days and you come back to the rink and you're practicing and you're getting back into your first game in a week or even a week and a half, it's different for you. It's out of the ordinary, and you kind of get back into the mix and you're getting used to things. Similar to how we saw in Edmonton and Arizona last night, where it was actually a 2-0 lead for Arizona, and then slowly but surely the Edmonton Oilers came back. So it's one of those things where it's a long-term thing. It's a full game process. It's not like it's guaranteed win just because another team's coming off a break or anything like that. But it's one of those kind of like long-term, full game. You're just used to the experience. You've had the games for the past couple of days, and the other team is not really used to it. But guys, this Montreal-Boston matchup, this is one that I always look forward to. I think this is by far the biggest rivalry for the Canadiens right now. I mean, that rivalry with the Maple Leafs hasn't really been there in a while now, in my opinion. The Bruins are their main rivalry. And like Ian said, it's pretty clear. Bruins and Habs were in completely different directions before the little break there, and they're both having played games in 6 days. But I'm kind of counting on both these teams to be rested up. I'm kind of counting on the Habs to put a couple goals up right now. But look, something I found kind of interesting is on the season, Boston averaging 3.28 goals per game, Montreal just 2.57. If you look at the last the 10 games head to head here, Montreal averaging 2.6 goals per game and Boston 2.3. So a relatively low scoring series. I was kind of expecting more of a high scoring one tonight. And when you look at teams going off breaks, there's either two things are going to happen. Is either one, they're going to be really rusty and you won't see anything at all, or two, it's going to be a very sloppy game and it's going to be just the floodgates are going to be wide open. That's kind of what I'm hoping for tonight. But I do think that with everything aside, Boston is just the superior team. They're a lot stronger. They're not really the big bad Bruins, that tough team anymore, but they just have a lot more scoring depth and they make a lot more plays on a consistent nightly basis than this Montreal Canadiens team do. The only injury right now for the Boston Bruins is Adam McQuaid. But look at this. Look at the Habs. I mean, of course, I gotta mention that once again, Ales Hemsky still out with that concussion. I mean, what has he really been for the Habs this year? And of course, Shea Weber, like I mentioned, he's been out more than he's been in. He's still got to have that foot injury. So, looking at this game, I'm looking at the Bruins in the money line. I'll lay minus 124. I'm seeing at Pinnacle right now. You can see minus 130 at most places. But look, these two teams are nowhere close to each other in the standings. I don't think Montreal has really a chance on catching up to any of these teams in the Atlantic. But this game is always good no matter what, no matter where the standings are. And I think that I was slightly on the over, but I'm more strong on the Bruins money line. But look, you got to get some credit to this Montreal team. They're rested. They did end on a good note going into the little break there, and I think that they should be able to put up some goals. And hopefully, Claude Julien could have done something, make any kind of changes. I can see right now the projected lineup is Pacioretty, Philip Deneau, Curry Lexington. So I have been and let's break down this team. I don't really even start to complain about the Habs players before and how there's so many mediocre players. It's all about how they mesh together in the chemistry. So second line right now is Paul Byron, Thomas McKenna, and Brendan Gallagher. So we've got Jonathan Drouin, the faded for Sergachev, and he's not even on the top of the line. That's obviously worrisome, but it's also paired with Alcott third line with Charles Brown. So we'll see how those guys pair up together. I think the rest of the team. But again, Boston are superior. They put up a lot higher numbers. Look at their last couple of games here. 6-5 loss. Pittsburgh still
there we go.
A lot of goals there. 7-1 win versus Carolina and a 5-1 win versus the Islanders heading into that break. Just a couple stats here on Boston. They're 8-2 straight up at their last 10 games, and the over has gone over in 4 of Boston's last 6 games. They're also playing very well on the road right now, and I think right now for Montreal, they kind of are trending towards those under kind of games, but it's not working out. Even though they have the best goaltender in the world, things aren't looking that great for them, and why I'm looking for over guys on a slight lean and Boston Bruins on the money line.
All right, Boston and a lean to the over. Your audio was cutting in and out there a little bit. It was like very, very it was, I don't know. It went quiet all of a sudden, and then it went loud again. I don't know, but we got the gist of what you were saying for sure. Boston. I know, Boston money line and the lean to the over, yeah. But we got it in that game. So yeah, I mean Boston, has did a great job last year. Obviously, when they had the coaching change, Bruce Cassidy came in there. They had a good finish to the last season, and look at that, having a great start so far this season as well. So it's just a question of, is the break going to disrupt the rhythm a little bit? I remember someone in the chat asking about the totals for these teams coming out of the bye week break. I finally did the number crunching just now while Andrew was talking there, finished it up, actually started it early, and it takes a while. You got to look back at all the games from last year with the bye week teams, but 14-8-4 last year to the over for games involving bye week break teams coming out in that first game coming out of the break. 14 overs, 8 unders, 4 pushes, 15-8-4 if you include last night's game. Edmonton, Arizona, because that game went over the total, 4-2 over the total in that game. So 15-8-4 to the over for games involving teams in their first game out of the bye week break, for those of you into totals. Boston Montreal is also on Dana Lane's betting card tonight in the NHL. So, Dana, how are you looking in this game?
Yeah, I appreciate, Andrew, that you're finally getting on the bandwagon. I think that it's been a long time coming. I think that you've wanted to for a while, and this is a great opportunity to do so. So welcome to the Boston Bruin bandwagon, and we hope that we'll get a victory for you tonight. So, welcome. Hey, look, guys, I've been watching this series for a long time. Since I was a little kid, I remember sitting there screaming at the television like a moron, thinking they could actually hear me. Boston just has never been able to beat Montreal. This has always been the way it's been. In fact, last year was the first time, I think, in 8 years, Boston has had their best record against Montreal. Even a year that the Bruins went and won the Stanley Cup, they struggled against the Montreal Canadiens. They struggled in their playoff series against the Canadiens, and they were clearly the better of the two teams. But I think it's going to be a different story tonight. I have the Bruins ranked 7th in my power rankings right now, which I think is pretty fair. I do like this team. Do I think they're a top 5 team that bet at at all costs? No, I don't think they're in that position. But Montreal's is nowhere to be seen on that list. This is just a team that's simply bad, and Carey Price gives them a chance every single night. But even Carey Price is not the Mr. Reliable that we're used to. I would love to see Montreal become more consistent on their transition. I would love to see, talking to guys at practice the other day at the Golden Knights practice, and I just said, look, this is why this team is so good. It's 3 passes from your end through the neutral zone to the offensive end, and they are on top of you. That's why they're so good. And I never see that out of Montreal. It's always a struggle to get through the neutral zone. It seems like they're skating through quicksand, and they're just not a team that I think is going to be able to, keep up with the Bruins, who are, if you really, look at where they are right now. There's 4 lines. The Bruins have 4 lines that could put the puck in the net, that can score. We know about the Marchand and the Bergeron and the Pasternak line, but even if you go down to their 4th line, Kari's got 4 goals in the last 5 games. You have Carolay's got 2 assists, but Tim Schaller's got 3 points in his last 10. But at least they're giving something. Even the 3rd line, and Backus has 6 in his last 10. Riley Nash is starting to see, some success, and Heinen has 6 points in his last 10. These are 3rd line guys, and so I don't feel like there's any way that I can take the Montreal Canadiens tonight. I know Carey Price is always the X factor, but certainly he cannot be leaned on like he has in past years. They don't have one guy in this team that has more than 23 points. They don't have one player with more than 16 goals. I just don't see how if you put these teams on paper, the Bruins are the better team. You're only being asked to lay $1.27 now at Pinnacle, $1.30 in some spots. I don't think that's too much to lay. The Bruins are by far a better team, and I think they proved that tonight on the road in Montreal.
Yeah, hard to dispute that. So Boston is the play for Dana in this game. Bruins taking on the Habs. These teams are going to get to know each other very well. We're talking about teams that are about to face each other 3 times in the next 10 days. So you talk about teams, they're going to make up in a big way for the fact that this is the first meeting of the season between these division rivals. They're going to get to know each other quite well these next 10 days. That's going to build up probably a little animosity on the ice. We might see some of that again start to develop here in these 3 games coming up with the Bruins and the Habs starting tonight. Next up, we got Winnipeg, Minnesota, 59-60. No line on this game yet, but Winnipeg coming off a 2-1 loss to Chicago last night, so it's a back-to-back situation for them. And for Minnesota, they are a team that obviously last night did not play. And they're also actually coming off a loss to the Chicago Blackhawks, but that came back on Wednesday night. Or a win over Chicago, 2-1. So both of these teams off playing the Blackhawks. One won against Chicago, the other lost against Chicago. So Minnesota's definitely had more rest going into this game than Winnipeg. Winnipeg playing the second night of back-to-back games. Neither of these teams, by the way, obviously coming out of their break. So this is one of the games not involving teams coming out of their break here. Going into this game, it's one interesting totals note with Winnipeg. 4 unders, 4-0 to the under for Winnipeg's second night of back-to-back games. That is definitely a totals trend you want to be aware of. So this has been an under team second night of back-to-back games for the Minnesota Wild in terms of, and Winnipeg, by the way, in terms of their win-loss record, back-to-back 2-2 second night of back-to-back games for the Winnipeg Jets. So that's the situation for them, even though the over actually is 5-1 last 6 head-to-head meetings between these teams. The Jets have actually played very well against this Minnesota team. They've won 4 straight meetings against the Minnesota Wild head-to-head. We'll see if that continues tonight. It's probably a game I'm not going to get involved with very much in the end, but I know our resident from Minnesota is involved, or at least wants to talk about the game. Alex B. Smith, finally getting him in here. This is his first time to break down a game on the show. He's planted his flag in the West tonight, and usually, of course, all those Western games are on the bottom end of the rotation. So we're finally getting Alex in on the show to break down a game. Here he goes, Jets and Wild. Alex, the floor is yours.
Thanks. Yeah, it gave me a few extra minutes to wake up here too as well, so that schedule sometimes worked out in my favor. But with that being said, tonight, looking at I obviously watched last night's game with Winnipeg and Chicago. And Jeff Glass absolutely played his ass off in net, making some big saves, and that's the reason why that game stayed 2-1 and the Hawks ended up winning. But the Jets had a ton of chances to score in that game, and so the thing I'm looking at now would be the over. Even though you see, like I said, slight trend with Winnipeg under in the second night of back-to-backs. You mentioned 4 straight unders and 2-2. In their straight-up record. But I think we're going to see some offense from both of these teams here. We've seen this, like I said, 5 of the last 6 meetings go over, but 7 of the last 10 meetings go over as well. And you look at this Minnesota team, they've only scored 6 goals in the last 3 games combined. Expecting to see that offense kind of stabilize and be a little bit better with everybody being, healthy for the most part. But we've kind of seen, like I said, things kind of regress a little bit. And, of course, they play tighter games against some of the teams like Chicago, for example. So I think we're going to see a much more wide-open game. I don't think Winnipeg's going to be too tired. They played a tough game, but they seem like they tend to have more energy on the second night back-to-backs than some other teams. As granted by that 2-2 record, a lot of teams, most teams have a losing record on that second night of back-to-back. So I'm going to be looking at the over, and I might even take Winnipeg if I can get a decent plus price, or find it around the pick-em price once it opens.
All right, over the total for Alex in the Winnipeg Minnesota game. And yeah, I'm glad you said that. You got an extra chance to wake up. See, I'm just looking out for what's best for you. There you go. It's exactly how we're going to frame it here. Andrew, you're also involved in the Jets and Wild here tonight on this Saturday card. Andrew, what are you looking at here in terms of a side or total?
Yeah, guys, I have the same feelings that Alex has. I like the over in this a lot. Again, I've been really having a tough time, even in the past 2 years, really trying to figure out what kind of identity this Wild team has and who they really are, and what kind of trends they're going to set. For me, I love kind of picking spots where I like over situation. I think they have a lot of talent. I think that they're a good team. They're a fast team. But I think they take care of the puck very well. But one thing that they do extraordinarily well, guys, is they move that puck from the defensive zone quickly and get it out fast up to their players, their forwards that are get the job done. You notice this Wild team, it's kind of the same guys all the time. So I feel like Winnipeg has to notice to shut down those main guys, those top 2 lines kind of guys, and then it's not really anything really left for them to do. But if you look at a couple stats here, Winnipeg averaging a whopping 2.38 goals per game in Minnesota, 2.9. But both of them averaging around 30 shots per game. The over 7-3 in these 2 last 10 meetings. So that's kind of impressive for me, looking at the way these teams have played. I know it's 10 meetings overall. It's a pretty large scale, but I always like to look at that just the last couple of times these teams have played. The total has gone over in 5 Winnipeg's last 6 games when playing Minnesota in general, and just on the road or at home. So for me, I know this is going to be a dumb stat, and many people might not agree with this, but this is something that I have 100% noticed. And look, Winnipeg coming off that 2-1 game yesterday, they're just too powerful of a team not to bounce back. I know this is no stat. This is not an expert. This is not a way to really handicap games. But you look at this, I'm expecting, first of all, there's too much talent on this Winnipeg team. They've played very good with Mark Scheifele being injured when he's out of the lineup. They had the next man up mentality has been absolutely massive, been blown up for this. And of course, Minnesota can score as well. But when they only put up one goal yesterday, I don't care if on a second leg of a back-to-back, I guarantee this line, two lines are going to be pumped up for a little bit more than one goal, guys. Kyle Connor, Blake Wheeler, and Patrick Laine. If you're into fantasy sports at all, if you're into DraftKings, FanDuel, I would look to check out at least maybe one or two of those guys tonight. I expect a big game from them. I expect an exciting hockey game from start to finish. It could be a high-scoring one. Let's hope Alex and I can cash tonight.
All right, over as well for Andrew in the Winnipeg, Minnesota game. And absolutely, in terms of things you want to look at, handicapping, the awful loss trend is something I look at, especially with good hockey teams. Because if you're a good hockey team, what do you normally do after a loss? You play better, you have a little more focus, a little more intensity, you bear down a little bit harder, whereas when you're feeling good and you're rolling, maybe you just don't put in quite as much work and focus in between games. You do that when you're off a loss. And, Winnipeg's 11-8 off a loss this season, 6-4 on the road off a loss. So, not some of the best numbers ever, but still a winning record for the Jets when they're coming off a single defeat. And that's the role for them here after really a tough loss last night in Chicago, because as Alex mentioned, Jeff Glass did play very well in that game for the Blackhawks, put up a brick wall, and Jets weren't able to solve him. We'll see if they're able to solve Minnesota here in this game tonight. Colorado, Dallas, next game. Yeah.
Important to note, too, that Connor Hellebuyck most likely not going to be playing in this game because it is the second leg. It should be Michael Hutchinson is expected in the lineup tonight, so that should help our over, as Hellebuyck's been pretty good heading in everybody kind of going into their breaks like that. I know these two teams aren't, but kind of getting a break because it's on the back-to-back. So kind of helps our over situation.
It very well could be. I mean, yeah, right now we've got nothing confirmed yet, but it wouldn't surprise me to see maybe Hellebuyck rested. We'll see what Paul Maurice decides to do with the goaltending going into that game tonight, because Hellebuyck did get the start, and Mason's injured, so you're not going to see, or at least not very likely to see, Steve Mason in the game tonight. He's battling a little bit of an illness, so if he's not set to go, that means you'd see, and they decide to rest Hellebuyck, that means you would definitely see Michael Hutchinson in between the pipes tonight. We've got Colorado, Dallas, 61-62. Dallas laying nearly minus 200, minus 190 to minus 200 range total, 5.5 shaded to the over in this hockey game. Avalanche and Stars, once again, we've got both teams coming off their 5-day break, so no edge there in terms of that 19-8 angle doesn't apply to this game. Not really involved. I mean, obviously I'm not going to lay that price with Dallas, but Colorado, who knows what you're going to get coming out of the break. So a game I'm not going to stay away. Again, if you believe in the totals trend for teams coming out of the break, that would point you to the over in this game. Like I said, 15-8-4 is that trend to the over. 15-8-4 in games involving teams out of the first game out of the 5-day break dating back to last season. That would be in play here with this Avalanche Stars game. So Alex is involved with this game in Big D tonight. Alex, what are you looking at here?
I'm looking at the over in this game tonight, and that was before actually knowing the finite numbers of the trend of teams coming off the bye. But the thing that caught my eye is that, and it's gonna be interesting to watch with both these teams. They went into the break playing really good hockey, especially Colorado. They went in on a 5-game win streak, and you had Dallas. They've won 6 of their last 8. So it'll be interesting to see which team can pick up their momentum early in this game. I think we're going to see a lot of offense from both these teams. We've seen the over trend in this for the last 6 meetings, gone over the total. We've also seen Dallas, play well at home, going over the total 5 of their last 6 games and 6 of the last 7 games overall. So I think we'll see both teams full of energy. We got Jonathan Bernier in net for Colorado tonight, so that usually always kind of helps the over. Not one of the worst backups in the league, at least in my ranking. So the overs, I already played this one. This is a game I'll be talking about later. It's the side I like, the over.
All right, over 5.5. Can't argue with that. And Bernie has actually had the odd really good game or two, but you just don't know when that game's going to be. That's the problem. It could be once every 3 months or once every year for all you know. But I remember that Pittsburgh game, which came out of nowhere, really. Earlier this season, where he was just a brick wall back there. But yeah, in terms of goaltenders I trust, he's not really high up on that list, even in situations where he does play well. And Colorado, we'll see how they can overcome some of these injuries, because they're banged up a little bit. Sven Andrighetto's injured, of course, without Semyon Varlamov, which is why They're having to go to Jonathan Bernier more often now. Varlamov dealing with a groin injury. JT Compher, who's had a pretty good season for the Colorado Avalanche. Compher is dealing with an upper body injury. So some injury concerns for Colorado just a little bit. But making it a little bit tough for them here to win in Dallas. Maybe Dallas puck line as well, because I could see Dallas maybe coming out and winning this game by margin. So much better if you like the Dallas side, lay the goal and a half. Much better value, bang for your buck if you think they can win this game. Because I think if they win, chances are pretty high, at least in my opinion, they can win by 2 goals or more. We've got Edmonton, Vegas, 63-64 in this game. No line as Vegas comes out of their 5-day break, facing an Edmonton team that is playing the second night of back-to-back. So this game, as I mentioned earlier on in the show, this game does apply to that now 19-8 betting angle, which would be in favor of the Edmonton Oilers here in this game tonight in terms of team coming out of the break, playing that first game against a team that is not coming out of their break. That would point you in the Edmonton direction. But before you do, I'm going to caution you why I will personally not be on Edmonton tonight, even though that trend is on in their favor. First of all, we know Vegas is 18-2 at home. That's very difficult to go against, even with them coming out of the break. Even with them seeing pictures of them floating around, of players being in Cabo this week, spending time together, enjoying the break. That's all right. I mean, it doesn't mean they're going to totally lay an egg tonight, but something you want to be aware of. But it's still a team that's 18-2 at home, and it's a team that if there's one reason that this game is going to get your attention, it's that the Edmonton Oilers handed by far Vegas's worst loss of the season earlier on this year in Edmonton. What was it, 8-2 or something like that? It was by far the worst loss that Vegas has had. They haven't had many stinkers, many clunkers, many just blowout defeats. That was the one in Edmonton earlier this season. So as much as that trend favors Edmonton, I'm staying off for that reason. I think this still could be an opponent here in the Edmonton Oilers that gets Vegas's attention. And if Vegas has their attention, has their focus, is ready to play, I'm not sure on the second night of back-to-backs, there's not much Edmonton can do about it. We'll see who's going to be a net 2 for the Oilers, because quick hook by Todd McClellan last night. 2 early goals by Arizona last night against Edmonton, got up to a 2-0 lead. That was it for Talbot. He was out of the game. They brought in Al Montoya after that. And he actually played really well, Al Montoya, in relief of Cam Talbot in that game. Edmonton comes back and wins 4-2. You might go back to Talbot tonight now. Have you got that extra rest? You didn't see many minutes last night. So I could see Todd McClellan going back to Talbot. Or maybe he sees, wow, Al Montoya really played well, and he did. He made some really good saves against Arizona last night. Maybe they ride the Montoya wave one more night here. But either way, keep an eye on the Edmonton goaltending situation going into this game tonight. But as much as that trend, like I say, 19-8, favors Edmonton tonight, that Vegas at home is one thing, and coming up, and that loss to Edmonton 8-2 earlier this season, that bothers me enough to think that I don't necessarily want to go against Vegas here tonight, even though they're in that negative bye-week trend going into this game. So it's a game I'm going to stay out of, but it's a good game to watch. I'm looking forward to seeing how Vegas plays tonight. Again, we talk about how those teams have struggled, but you know, when you get your ass kicked 8-2 by this team earlier in the season, you haven't had many losses that you remember because they were that bad. This is that one loss that was that bad for the Golden Knights. So they might be taking this game a little bit more seriously than they otherwise would. So good game to watch, but I'll be staying out of it from a betting perspective. And it looks like my comrades are staying out of it as well, which means we're moving on to Arizona, San Jose, 65-66 on the rotation. Not much, no lines here as of yet. This is the other game. There's 2 games that fit that 19-8 angle. Team playing their first game out of the bye versus a team not playing their first game out of a bye. That is the situation here with Arizona, San Jose. And again, Arizona was the beneficiary, I should say, or was the team that was the bet against team in this angle last night. They are actually the bet on team in this angle tonight. San Jose, the team coming out of the break for the first time tonight facing Arizona. So just based on that, 19-8 angle favoring Arizona in this game, but boy, it's definitely a leap of faith going with Arizona at any point in time. They have a 2-0 lead against Edmonton last night. They chased the goalie out of the game, still can't find a way to win that game. Edmonton comes back and beats them by a score of 4-2. That's the Arizona season in a nutshell. 10-32 on the campaign, 5-19. Or 5-17 rather on the road. I mean, just an absolute nightmare, really, for the Arizona Coyotes. Really, at this point in time, all they're thinking about is, let's get ready for the draft. We're probably going to be the number one pick, unless the lottery kind of, bounces us out of there and someone else takes that spot. But Arizona obviously will have the highest percentage odds to land that number one draft pick in next year's NHL draft. They got their eyes, I believe, on this Rasmus Dahlin kid, who's been absolutely fantastic in terms of Swedish defensive prospect, getting already hype in comparisons to Nick Lidstrom and Erik Karlsson and Victor Hedman and a bunch of other great Swedish defensemen that we've seen in the league over the last couple of decades. That's the comparisons that they're giving Dahlin already in his young career. He was tremendous for Sweden, a pillar of strength on their blue line at the World Juniors. So you can see why there's a lot of people excited about this kid, and Arizona might have that opportunity to draft him in the number one spot in the upcoming NHL draft later this year. So that remains to be seen. So, that the trend, San Jose is the better of these two teams. They didn't play good going into the break, 3 losses in a row. But the trend of this bye week versus non-bye week trend is strong enough now at 19-8 that I want no part of San Jose. But is Arizona a team that I can take a leap of faith, even at a big plus price? To back, we'll see. I think I probably will when push comes to shove. I'll put a small little McDonald's money type of bet, as Donnie Rightside likes to say, on Arizona. Why not? I mean, the 19-8 is in their favor. They're a bad hockey team. I understand that, but if they got a chance to take advantage of a situation and a spot in the schedule that a lot of teams have been able to take advantage of. Teams playing their, in rhythm, playing normal schedule against a team their first game out of the break. That's in their favor, so why not? I'll take a small little flyer tonight on Arizona, whatever plus price they're getting in this game tonight in the Shark Tank against the San Jose Sharks. Anaheim, LA to wrap up the card, 67-68 freeway battle here. They call it something anyway. LA minus 115, minus 120. The total 5.5, shaded to the under, heavily shaded to the under. 5.5 at minus 145 to the under in this hockey game. I don't have much on it really. It's Anaheim's one of those flaky up and down teams. Don't know really what you're going to get game to game. LA's been pretty good at home specifically this season, so they're not the easiest team to go against. 11-9 on home ice this season. For the LA Kings. Anaheim 9-8 on the road. Should be a good game. It's always intense. You usually get a scrap or two in these Ducks-Kings games. Lots of animosity, so should be a physical game, fun one to watch, but I'm probably going to stay out of it from a betting perspective, although Alex and Andrew both want to discuss this Anaheim-LA game. Let's go to Andrew first. Ducks-Kings, what are you looking at in this game?
Yeah, Ian, this isn't one of my favorite games on the night, but I wanted to give out a team total of over 3 for the LA Kings. I just think that they're actually a talented team. They've kind of proved me wrong this season. And the past couple of weeks, even and before Christmas break, they looked pretty strong, and they're putting up a solid amount of goals in most games, especially big games. I think this is actually somewhat of a rivalry game against this Anaheim team. And like you said, Ian, they always play well. It's always scraps. It's always very physical. So over 3, you're getting a plus price at it, and that's my team total play of the day here on the Ice Guys show.
All right, team total there for Andrew in that game. And Alex, your take on this Ducks-Kings matchup to wrap up the night?
We've seen the Kings win 4 of the last 6 meetings. It's always a tight series. 15 of the last 23 go under the total. But I'm looking at Anaheim here. It's the first time in a while now where virtually everybody's healthy for Anaheim since the beginning of the year. And, like I said, you have such a tight matchup and both teams, coming back, even getting rest. I think we can see where, both teams coming off back-to-back losses as well. So, not only having a spirited rivalry matchup, but it's just like, one of these games you got to win. You got to win games in your division, this time of year from here on out. I can't stress that enough. So, I'm looking at the Ducks here at a, decent pick and price. I think they should be able to take care of business on the road tonight.
All right, Anaheim. Yeah, in terms of their team health, no question. It's as good as it's been all season long. They've got minor injuries. I mean, Patrick Eaves really is the only impact player that's still out for them. That's about it. And he's been out all season long. So they've got Perry back now. They've had all kinds of blue line injuries. With Lindholm and company, but they're finally as healthy as they can be. Remember, Cam Fowler was dealing with injuries for a bit as well for this Ducks team. So they're starting to get things healthy. They're starting to get their team healthy again. Now it's about finding that cohesion and chemistry and consistency, really, because that's still something that this team is struggling to find. They're only 5-5 their last 10 games. They won 3 in a row, and then they dropped their last 2 going into their break. So we'll see if they're able to bounce back from it here tonight in this game against the LA Kings. But Alex believes they will, and he's going with Anaheim here in this game tonight. All right, that's going to bring us to best bets to wrap up this Saturday card. A very interesting one, a very unique one. Like I say, a lot of teams in games after extended time off, 5 days, their 5-day break. A ton of teams in that spot playing that first game. So a very unique card to break down, but we've got a best bet from all of us ready to roll. Let's go around the horn. Let's start with Dana. Your best bet for this Saturday card.
Well, can I still give a $1.50 favorite? I mean, I didn't have any intention of not playing them as my best bet tonight, but I certainly do like the Rangers in this spot against the Islanders. I mean, this is a Ranger team that plays extremely well at home. Not only do they play well at home, but if you notice, take it for what it's worth, they play very well on Saturdays. They've won 5 out of their last 6 games on Saturdays. It's kind of that, the Bruins play well in their matinee games. The Rangers play well on their matinee games. Something to take into account. Don't base your whole handicapping theory on that, but the Rangers play extremely well against teams with losing records, and I just don't see any reason to go against the Rangers. Again, sometimes you try to find that cute wager, but there is no doubt that these two teams are polar opposites right now, and I like the Rangers, and I like the Rangers fairly easily today.
All right, New York Rangers -150 at the Greek. That's the best price I see out there right now. So that is best bet for Dana in this game. Hey, if the Islanders bring that no defense mantra and attitude to the rink again, the Rangers might be in very good shape here.
It's 49 at Pinnacle. It's 49 at Bet Online. So
there you go. You got to shop around.
150.
Exactly, because that's my threshold. I don't like laying more than -150. I've said that time and time again. I really shy away from laying more than -150. When it gets above that, I'm like, no, I'll find other opportunities on the board. But Rangers, -149 Pinnacle, 49 Bet Online. I mean, get on those prices. Use SBRodds.com. There's a reason I always mention that website. Free live odds. It doesn't get better than that. It's the only place you can find it. SBRodds.com. Use it. Put yourself in the best position to protect your bankroll and give yourself the best prices and the best numbers possible with every wager you make. Alex, let's hear your best bet for tonight.
I'm going back with Colorado and Dallas over the total. Like I said, two teams played really well going into the break. Coming back, should be rested, should be focused in a division battle that we've seen go over time and time again. So the over 5.5, I was able to grab it around 115. So that's my best bet tonight.
All right, over 5.5, Colorado, Dallas for Alex, best bet. And now, Andrew, yours for tonight.
Yeah, over 5.5, Winnipeg, Minnesota. I think it's a good bounce back spot here for Winnipeg. They've been playing strong. Their top 2 lines are just phenomenal. I love the depth on this team, and I'm not expecting Hellebuck to be in nets, but if he is, it won't be a factor for me. Overall, I'm still loving it. That's my best bet of the night.
All right, best bet over 5.5 for Andrew in the Winnipeg, Minnesota game. Well, there was a movie back in the day in the 90s. It was a pretty funny movie, a comedy drama, 4 weddings and a funeral. Well, for best bets today, it's 3 overs and a side. That's what we're dealing with here in this game. I'm also on an over. We're going to keep riding what's been working all season long, and I think it'll work again today. Let's go Islanders, Rangers over 6. That'll be my best bet, -113 at Heritage. Look, this Islanders team, I think, is good to give up 4 goals at least, something that they did in 6 straight games going into the break. If the Rangers can hit 4, all I need from the Islanders is 2 to give me a push. And I think that's a good chance. I think we push at worst. Good chance to win this. The recent series history between the Rangers and Islanders has also been over. for the most part. So we're going to go over 6, -113. Islanders, Rangers, best bet for the Saturday card. That's going to wrap it up for the Ice Guys for Saturday. Again, thanks to everyone for tuning in, really. I mean, that's as heartfelt as it gets because it's early, these shows, and we appreciate that, tuning in, waking up early with us, breaking down some hockey. We'll be back Tuesday, 9 a.m. Eastern Time with our next edition of the NHL Ice Guys. Looking forward to it. For Dana, for Alex, and for Andrew, I'm Ian Cameron for Sportsbook Review. Good luck this weekend. Enjoy the NFL playoffs. Enjoy the hockey action today. Good luck to everyone. We'll be back on Tuesday.